Yo, Joe! This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the G.I. Joe Classified Duke figure Retro Card Back Edition. Now, what really makes these cool is that they finally improved the cards. You can see that's a nice thick card. You can't bend it as easily as you could with the Walmart exclusive ones that were just absolute garbage. On the back of the box, we have Duke, Hauser, Conrad S. First Sergeant. Primary specialty, airborne infantryman. Secondary specialty, artillery. Small arms armorer. Birthplace, St. Louis, Missouri. Graduated top of his class at Airborne School. After running 4 different Special Forces schools, he turned down a commission to instead serve as the acting first sergeant of G.I. Joe. Duke here was a prime member of the cartoon series. Probably the character that most people remember the most, next to Scarlet and Snake Eyes. From one of his file cards from a previous release of the 3 3/4 O-Wing line, we have First Sergeant Codename Duke. We have an SN number, file name Hauser, Conrad S. Primary military specialty, airborne infantry. Secondary military specialty, artillery. Birthplace, St. Louis, Missouri. Grade E9. Basically giving us the same information as before for the most part. Although not one of the original Joes, Duke quickly rose to the task of being G.I. Joe Team's first sergeant and field commander. Duke is, at his core, a man of action and a highly educated and experienced soldier. He speaks 5 languages, graduated top of his class at Airborne School at Fort Benning, and joined Special Forces not long afterward. He served overseas in several areas of Southeast Asia. Duke commands by winning respect and by understanding his team as well as making sure they follow procedure. He's tough as nails, but not so unyielding that he is unable to work with the unusual diversity of a group such as the G.I. Joe team. Duke has turned down several commissions over the years so he could stay in the field. He has absolutely no interest in an officer's rank or a desk job. He wants to be out there with his troops kicking Cobra around whenever they appear. From General Hawk's file. One of the best additions to this outfit has ever had is Duke. The man is perfect field commander, adaptive to any situation while maintaining control. I can't think of a better soldier to have in the field, watching over the troops and getting the job done. If the Joes are the best of the best, then Duke is one of them. So I'm not going to lie, I almost don't want to take this off of here just because they did such a beautiful job on these updates on these cards. This is the card that you definitely would be hanging up on your wall if you do that for display. But I display my stuff open, so I will be opening him. But yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful piece. Also, something to note with the way they did this card is it's a 2-layer card. So they actually put the plastic, at least I'm calling it a 2-layer card, but the plastic for the clamshell is actually underneath the top layer of the card or the front of the card. And so when they seal the card itself, that's what keeps the plastic in place. And of course, it is probably glued in there, so you can't really get it out. Though how awesome would that have been if this had been as simple as just like squeezing it to pull it out? But then we'd see lots of stolen stuff if these end up in stores and not just online. Nicely, he comes with a stand. And the multi-language piece of garbage paper that nobody keeps or reads. Oh, look at that. He's also got extra weapons and binoculars in behind him. I didn't realize that. I will say one of the things G.I. Joe Classified does right is almost every figure does come with extra hands to do fists or gripping. So that's a big bonus in my opinion. I wish Masters of the Universe would not necessarily give us fists, but a second gripping hand when they give us either a fist or a slapping hand. Let's go ahead and take a look at his equipment first real quick. We have his airborne backpack with, I believe it's called an E-tool, but I don't remember for sure. A friend of mine in Boy Scouts was actually a big military guy and had one of those. Of course, it doesn't come off, which is kind of a shame. He's got a helmet styled after the classic G.I. Joe toy with the same kind of clear visor that they also came with. He's got a nice little knife. The handle is actually surprisingly colored multiple times here in that we got both brown and for like a leather, and they give kind of a metallic. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a gold or a brass color, but either way, it's a nice little addition. And it would appear that that is designed to go in his ankle sheath, which by the way is a separate piece. He comes with a pistol. I think this is a fairly standard design that they've given us with multiple figures already. Again, thigh holster. Here we have the generic G.I. Joe rifle that you always saw in the cartoon series, done in olive green and black, just to kind of represent what Duke usually has color-wise for his equipment. On Duke's utility shoulder strap here, there is a hole in the back to line up with the hole in his back so that you can peg in the backpack. And it's a pretty solid peg, unlike some of the other ones we've had recently. So let's just put Duke's helmet on there, visor down for the moment, set him aside. These are the items that I believe are designed to look like the ones that actually came with the original toy back in the day. This rifle was also used with the Tiger Force version of Duke. I don't know if it was released with the original version. And of course, a pair of binoculars designed to fit over his neck and hang down, which unfortunately the utility belt there does kind of make it sit funny. Honestly, this is the sort of item that I know they're doing it because it's the retro and it goes with the old toys, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of garbage. This not so much. This is still cool. If I can hold it. And of course, you know, the magazine. But let's go ahead and take a look at Duke's articulation. Well, so we do have the we have a ball joint at the head. Spins all around. You can look up, down, over, sideways. Normally I mentioned the chicken neck here, but I cannot get the bottom of the neck to move on his torso. So I think that that is might be firmly in place. Put his head off here real quick. Okay, we can get a little bit of movement out of that neck, but not as much as previous versions. And I don't know if that's just because of the design of the torso, whether it's that he's got a boob cut instead of an ab crunch, or if it's just because of the way the collar is set up on this one that it just doesn't move as much. So his arm goes up, it goes down. There is a butterfly joint. It does appear to be more of a standard butter joint. Butter joint. It's a butter joint, butterfly joint. Although it does seem to be a lot bigger than what we usually see. And it's not the same design that came with General Hawk, where this whole entire section just kind of moved. So he's got a bicep cut, double joint at the elbow. Wrist has the spin around, and he has the up and down articulation. Although it's not particularly functional with the way the wrist is designed in this case. Like I said, we have the boob cut on him, where you can kind of move the torso around a bit, a little bit down, a little bit back, as it is a ball joint in there, I believe. However, it does not give us the same amount of versatility as the old ab crunch did, so he can't really bend forward as much. And to be fair, I do think it's kind of pointless with these figures, just because we already have this like really nicely articulated ball joint at the waist. Here, I don't feel like we really need it up at the top. I'm not sure. I have yet to found a real pose that takes any real advantage of the boob cut on the male figures. Now, I get why they do it on the female figures, because they have the smaller waist and the ab crunch is not as practical for them, but we do have G.I. Joe classified standard drop down hips, which of course allows him to kick up yay far, and he can kick back yay far, and he can really kick it out. So our G.I. Joe figures can definitely kick somebody in the face if they really want to try to do it. We have a thigh cut, the double jointed knee, like so. And we have a boot cut, and of course a hinge at the ankle that also has a pin, so you can spin it all around if you want to. So it can really look like Duke broke his foot real bad. Overall, he's a really good looking figure. And I do actually really do like the animation style gun that he comes with. That might be one of the best choices that they've made in weapons. And he's got a really good face sculpt, I think, in this case. He looks a little bit older. Not super old, but, you know, like he's probably hitting around 30-ish. For comparison, though, I didn't dig out a vintage or vintage-ish Duke because I couldn't find it in my collection of stuff. And I think the one that I have is actually one of the reissues. I don't think I have a ton of actual vintage G.I. Joe figures. I think they're mostly the reissues that they did later on. However, we can bring out the Tiger Force version of Duke to take a look at. And even though theoretically they have almost the same kind of upper body part, the Tiger Force one does have the ab crunch. And his backpack just fell off. And they did just reuse the backpack from the original classified release, just painted differently. He also comes with the, what I'm just going to call the more toy accurate gun. But this is going to sound terrible. In my opinion, Tiger Force Duke, or the original release of Duke for classified, has a really punchable face. Like, to me, he kind of resembles your standard blonde bully in high school. That's what he kind of looks like to me with that face. So I definitely prefer the new head sculpt over the previous classified one. If they issued this head in the proper skin tone for this Duke, I would definitely swap them out. Also, he's got a more modern, tight hairdo in the back and looser at the top type of thing going on. Also, kind of looks like his nose has been broken before. He's seen some shit. Anyway, I definitely like the new retro card back versions that they're putting out, especially since the new card backs are actually really nicely done compared to the originals. So I would say go for them if you can get them. I think they're still available on Amazon. I don't know about Hasbro Pulse, but I believe that they're supposed to be a more open item. That's the way to put it. As in, they aren't going to be just sold on Hasbro and Walmart now. I think they're supposed to be at both Target and Walmart also, and maybe some other vendors. Although I haven't seen these available on Big Bad Toy Store or Entertainment Earth. I should double check that. But overall, most of Duke's stuff here does look brand new, so, or at least the reuse is not the same as the previous Tiger Force release. So, if you're a fan of G.I. Joe Classified and the vintage line, you definitely want to get the new retro card backs. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, share this with your worst enemy in order to torture them. Peace and love. Now, what makes this really cool is that they actually finally improved the cards.